Michael Olanipekun is a communications and digital strategy professional with frontline NHS experience, an MSc in digital marketing, and a degree in computer science. His career spans healthcare, technology, logistics, and education, where he has delivered campaigns that improved patient outcomes, enhanced staff morale, and strengthened organization reputation. Alongside professional roles, Michael is deeply committed to helping families build trans-generational wealth. He founded the Mike Learning YouTube channel and is currently leading an independent research project, The Family Fortune, exploring how first generation families can build sustainable prosperity. As the founder of Errand Boy and creator of Ride with Mike, Michael combines entrepreneurship, communication, and systems thinking to design solutions that empower individuals to design solutions that empower individuals and families to thrive. His mission is to connect people, purpose, and progress in ways that create long-term value across generations. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome our first speaker, Michael Olaniseku. Mr. Michael, you're welcome, sir.
Thank you so much. Good morning, everyone. Can you confirm you can see me?
Yes, sir, I can
Okay.
see you.
Thank you so much for having me. So while I wait, I want to welcome everyone to today's session and to say a very big thank you to colleague turn sister turn friend, Olajumoke Kende, the convener of TOVA. Thank you so much for having me here today. And once I can share my screen, I'm going to jump right into it because I think I over-prepared, so I want to ensure that I finish within the time frame that I have because I'm very time conscious. So on my first slide, actually, I have a question, and it's a question I want us to engage with in the chat box. And it's a question, I'll just copy, let me see a couple of sections and then post on the chat box because, yeah, that's a little bit, give me 1 second, please. Great. So kindly confirm you can see my screen, everyone. Oh, great. Thank you so much. Thank you. Okay. So yeah, that's the question I actually want us to just look at briefly. Why is it that we Africans actually are lacking behind on the global stage of innovation, impact, and relevance? I would want to see our comment on that because I want this to be quite interactive. So please do well to just engage as much as you can, and I would appreciate that. Okay, yeah, thank you so much for confirming that. I would want us to use the chat box and drop our answers. But while we do that, I'll just give a context to what I'm here to do today. So a few months ago, I was on WhatsApp, right? And my friends who know me on WhatsApp, I always just share my opinion on WhatsApp. And I think that day I was just perplexed by the fact that I was looking around, I was looking at the world around me, and I was wondering why my continent, which is Africa, my people are, and I was thinking why we are always taking the backseat really in terms of innovation. When it comes to tech innovations, for instance, we are always on the consuming end. The phones will come, we'll use phones, we'll buy phones. Some of us even compete, or I'm using the latest iPhone 15, iPhone 17, all of those things, right? AI has come, for instance, and we're actually like consumers most of the time. And so it was when I began to actually talk about that the conversation between me and Olajumoke started, and I'm going to go more into that later. But I actually want to read some quotes here by some amazing individuals on the power of Africa, for instance, right? So Tony Fitzjohn says, there is no place like Africa. There is something about the spirit of the people and the beauty of the land and the diversity of the wildlife that touches the soul. Another person who is Napoleon Bonaparte said, Africa is a sleeping giant. Let her sleep. But when she wakes, she will move the world. And I think this quote kind of hit me really hard because it captures the essence and reality actually of the African continent as it stands today. I know this is actually a global conversation, and of course, we are talking from a global perspective, right? So it just shows some harsh realities about what we are currently expressing in our continent, Africa. And the truth is, as a country, right, as a continent, we are smart, we are blessed, we are resourceful. As I was spelling the word resourceful, I actually wanted to place the word resource and full because there is no continent on the earth that is so blessed with natural resources as Africa. And the question now becomes, if we're so blessed, why does it feel like it's a curse in a way, right? Because our current realities does not suggest that we are a continent that is blessed with so much. Beyond that, we are actually resilient because I don't think there's any continent that has gone through what Africa has gone through in terms of all of the things that happened in the past, from slave trade to colonization, right? We are not here to throw a pity party, but then it's just to talk about our potential to actually bounce back, go across the globe, right? Interestingly, in non-African nations, you see Africans doing amazing things. And you begin to ask yourself, what's really happening? Why is there a disconnect between what we are experiencing from Africans in diaspora, for instance, and then Africans back home? And as I began to think, one of the things that stood out to me is actually, if you look at it, the real problem that we are experiencing in Africa is a competition, something I've called the competition paradox. And by this, I mean that we're actually competing to consume instead of create. You see, the world around us actually competes on innovation. They compete to build the next iPhone, the next AI model, the next cure for a disease. But we, too often, compete on consumption, right? And for me, it's actually something that we need to rethink because I would really, really want people to know that African can do better, right? Like, so most times our current approach to life is we want to show everyone that we are doing better than them. For instance, you must if you buy a new car, I'll buy my own too, right? If you build a duplex, I'll build my own too, right? So it's just that kind of competition that exists. Even parents, when we are growing up and stuff like that, they're going to tell us stuff around just give me 1 second. I think I'm having an interruption here. Give me 1 second. Please, sorry about that.
No problem, sir.
Yeah. Okay, so sorry. Let me just turn my phone on silent so that it doesn't disturb me again. Apologies for that. Right. So we are locked in the battle of consumption, a race to show I have arrived. That's check it. Check most of the teenagers, for instance, or the young ones in Africa, for instance, is who is buying the next Benz, who is buying. And because of this, instead of creating, we have gone into some practices that are actually not exportable to the world, right? Of course, there's the name for it, Yahoo, Yahoo, Yahoo Plus, and all of that. And it's just because we want to show that I'm doing better. I've done this, I've arrived, right? And the painful thing about all of this is almost everything we are competing on, or the things we are competing to buy, is imported, right? So it turns out that we are competing to consume than competing to create. And so if we actually want to become future-ready professionals, then it means that we need to begin to rethink our approach as a continent. Because I strongly believe that Africa has a lot to offer the world. that the world has not seen yet, right? And like I said, one of the consequences of this competition paradox is the fact that our importation is greater than our expectation. So as a career person, right, what frameworks are they using in businesses, for instance, that was created from Africa, for instance? Most of the things that we do or that we know that we boast ourselves of, oh, I have a certificate. These things were created by people who do not understand the African context. And then we begin to boast on these things that we have not created. While it is good to actually learn from others, I believe that there's so much the world has to experience from Africa that they have not yet experienced yet. And that's because we are not thinking as creators as much as we should. So, like I said, there was a backstory around how me and Olajumoke, the convener of this wonderful platform, actually arrived at what I'm currently doing. So we actually met at one of the African Masterclass series that I did last year, and she was a very, very wonderful cohort member because I was privileged to be to lead the cohort, and she was a part of the team that worked together on the project. And I noticed something different about her. She was so committed, she was engaging and all of that. And then we became friends. And then I shared my contact with her, and then she shared hers with me. So she messaged me about a post I had made some time back. And then in her comment, because she had told me that she would want to invite me to this program, by the way. And then, so I made that comment actually one day. I was just doing some ranting actually, because yeah, I'll call it ranting, because I was just pained because I saw some things that Africans were doing and I was not just impressed. So then when I made that post, she now said, oh, I love this, but then the conference is a global conference. So if we want to approach this concept from this angle, then it will mean that we are niching down to Africa. And then I asked her a simple question. I said, from a global stage, who is currently lagging behind? And her response was Africa. And then I said that, so it's actually important that we talk about this as a continent because charity begins at home. And why the principles I'm going to be sharing today are globally applicable and relevant, we must first get our house in order, right? We must stop this victim mindset and realize that Africa has something profound that the world has to experience. We have something profound to offer the world. Do you know why? So I did a research on Africa, and it turns out Africa is the cradle of human innovation. Every innovation that we see in the world today started in Africa. And it's so amazing because I was even asking myself, of course, we know that slave trade happened, right? So Africans were exported, were sold here to come and work and stuff. So it turns out that even the first world countries, in a way, were built originally by Africans because it was the manpower of Africa that was used to build the civilized world. So the point I'm trying to make is there's so much Africa has to offer. But like I said, somewhere along the line, we got used to the chains, right? And it went from being a physical chain to a mental chain. Check before all of slave trade and colonization. Africans, I think the first richest man on earth, according to history, of course, we know from biblical history, it was Solomon. But then from human history, it was a man called Musa Mansa. So the history has it that he was so wealthy that he actually made a whole, I can't remember the nation now, but he visited that nation and then he blessed them so much that the country became actually wealthy from the gifts that he gave them. So there are so many things that Africans have done in the past, but then somehow currently it feels like we are just on the consumption end and not creating things. And one of my assignments today is just to encourage us, just to sow a seed that beyond the consumption, as a career person, there's so much you have to offer. And for us to unlock what you have to offer, for you to unlock it, then it means that we need to begin to think in a different way than we have thought in the past. So today we're here to talk about being future ready, but we cannot be future ready if you are still a prisoner of a broken present tense mindset. So that's why I feel like this session is going to be very important. So if you check my core, it's people, purpose, progress. Everything in life begins with people. But our problem is how we see them. One of the broken mindset that we have as Africans, right? Of course, not every African is a victim of this, but majority of Africans have this. Like, I'm currently in the UK, by the way, and I've seen this play out even in this place, right? And it's the fact that we see other people as rivals. And this leads to a zero-sum game, right? Because we feel like for me to win means that you must lose for me to win. So that means if I get a promotion, then it's one less for you. And the truth is, that is a current approach. But the new approach is an approach that requires partnership. And one of the most important things we must know is that the person next to you is not your rival. That your colleague at work, that your boss, whoever it feels like, oh, they are shining you currently in your career, they are not a rival, actually. They are a potential partner. And in this lesson, you'll see why I believe that they are a potential partner. So I'm a Christian, by the way, but I understand that this platform is a platform of multi-religious and multi-ethnic people. So I'll just give you the context of these examples from my own experience, what I have learned, what I have known, right? And I want to talk about the high cost of bad competition. And I'm going to give you a few examples from the stories of the Bible that kind of paints this. Of course, if I was using a Shakespeare story, I think it was still going to play along. So because that's my exposure, so just pardon me for the examples, right? So the first thing with bad competition is short-sightedness. And if you look at the story of the first competition on earth, it was a competition between Cain and Abel, according to the Bible, right? And what happened was the both of them went to offer a sacrifice to God, and it turns out one of them was accepted, the other one was rejected. And what happened was that Cain saw a rival instead of a mentor. Of course, Abel must have done something right for his sacrifice to be accepted. If Cain simply say, oh, Abel, what did you do differently that made your sacrifice accepted? Cain would have become a better person for it. But because he was short-sighted, right, he chose elimination over education. Another example from the biblical narrative is the story of Jacob and Esau. They were brothers. While their mom was pregnant, they were having some issues, and the mom said to go ask God, why is she having this constant battle in her stomach? And God was like, oh, you have two nations inside of you, and the elder will serve the younger. It turns out that the parents, right, they misinterpreted this prophecy, because automatically she began to give a preference to Jacob over Esau. And if you look at the lifetime of those two, there was no time where Esau actually served Jacob, so to say. They were both destined for success. It's just that one was ordained to be the lineage through which God was going to fulfill his purpose on the earth, right? So the truth is, the ultimate act of short-sightedness in the part of Cain, right, made him to destroy himself in the end. And of course, like I said, right, the parents of Jacob and Esau, Rebecca plotted to trick her husband, right? And of course, Isaac tries to subvert the prophecy. But then what happened was they ended up with a dysfunctional family, right? And it's the same thing for the story of Joseph and his brothers. When Joseph had his dream, his brothers automatically thought of Joseph as one who wanted to outshine them. But then the vision that Joseph had was actually meant to save them. So it shows that when people do not look properly beyond competition, they begin to miss out things that's meant to help them achieve their own goals. Because don't forget, when the famine came and Joseph was able to interpret the dream, he was able to save even his own brothers and family from the famine and the whole known world in Egypt that time. So it just shows that there is so much more to people around you than appears to the eyes. And it takes a level of openness and the willingness to collaborate to be able to unlock what people around you have. Now, I've said that the first step to relevance, to innovation and impact, is to stop seeing people as ladders to climb or threats to eliminate and start seeing them as partners to build with, right? Just give me 1 second, please. So to be future ready, one of the things that we must have is we must have this deliverance from competition. We must fundamentally shift how we see people. The next person to you is not a rival. They are your partner. They are not your competition. And actually, they are your community, right? So for us to become relevant and to kind of innovate and to create impact like we want to see in the world as this conference has been designed for, is the fact that we must begin to see ourselves as a collaborative. Everybody on earth has something uniquely to offer to the world. And there is always a room for collaboration. There is always a room for collaboration. But then if people just come together, it's not enough to bet what it is they want to bet. For us to bet the future that we see for ourselves, the future-ready professionals, then it means that we must also unlock the key of purpose. Because people without purpose always bring chaos. For instance, pardon my illustrations. Actually, like I said, it's my exposure. That's what I've been trained in. So I get my stories from real life and from the Bible as well. I remember a time in the Bible where it says Moses wanted to go make a sacrifice to God. And when he did, he left the people with Aaron at the time. By the time he came back, there was chaos. They had turned away from all that he had taught them. Right? That was because when Aaron took that mantle, he actually did not go with intention and purpose. So the people dictated what he should do. But the people were wrong, right? So the who always needs a why. A group of people without a shared positive goal is not a team. It's just a mob. And that was literally what happened, because when Moses came back, he was not impressed and God was angry as well. And some people's head had to go for it, right? So purpose is another important key that is actually needed for the future ready professionals. Now, in this context, what is purpose? Purpose, actually, I've said, is the antidote for competition. Don't forget, that's where I started from. That most of us in Africa, generally, we just tend to want to outshine. So let me give you, and it's very funny because even our school system is designed that way. So from nursery one, first position, this, second position. So it begins to create that mindset of competition. When I came to the UK for my master's, the first thing that actually surprised me was we don't do exams. Interestingly, right? Like there was no exams throughout my master's. However, we're given assignments that were research work. And in your research work, you cannot plagiarize. Like you must create your own ideas. And most people who come here, it's actually a struggle for them because we are used to just going to Google and copy stuff and paste and then submit. But then being in that environment where there's no competition, it's just you doing your best and making sure you get a good grade. Because even in their primary education here, right, they don't have first position or second. You just go do your best and your result speaks for it, right? So I think one of the things is the shared vision that transforms competition into collaboration, right? So it's us as individuals aligning to a bigger goal than ourselves. And it takes a fundamental shift from how can I beat you to how can we solve this problem together. How many professionals do you know, right, that are actually saying, oh, this is a problem we have in Nigeria, and then we want to come together and solve it? The ones that have done it, they have created wonderful solutions. For instance, what's this man's name? I've forgotten his name now. He created a fintech company in Nigeria that trains young individuals to become to know how to code. I don't know why his name just skipped my head, but he worked with his friends and they created that platform, and they have created a lot of African innovators that know how to actually code and do amazing things like that. So when people choose to collaborate, it makes a difference, right? It makes the difference. So just give me 1 second. Yeah. So what we need to know really is that purpose actually is what takes us from that point of competition to a point of shared vision. For instance, personally, I believe that Africa is the future of the world. That's my belief. That's why you see that I'm pro-Africa. Like everything I do, even the business I currently run in the UK, they are targeted to Africans. Like I serve the African community here because I believe that Africa is the future of the world. There's so much. Because I believe this, right? I've for some time now I've been carrying people. Last week I had an event here in the UK where people came together, Africans, and then we talked about the future for us, even in this place. So when there is a purpose, it's easier for people to come together and collaborate, right? That's the point I'm trying to make with that. Now, the future does not belong to the person with the most impressive title. It belongs to those who are driven by the most compelling purpose. When the only purpose is to beat the other guy, to get a promotion, to buy a bigger car, we end up creating chaos. We throw our brothers, the very ones who should hold the key to our future, under the pit, right? So purpose actually helps us to look beyond that competition, right? Because you cannot be jealous of your teammates if you both are trying desperately to win something together. And a good example is the Steve Jobs and the Steve Wozniak story, which we'll see very, very shortly. But then when you're working together to achieve something, everybody brings their hands on the deck. So I think the point I'm trying to really make is, as a career person, you should begin to think beyond what will I eat, what will I wear, I need to impress. You need to start thinking, what problem do I need to solve? What problem can I partner with people for us to solve, right? For instance, the AMS program that we actually did last year was targeted to solving the problem of the kind of education that we're currently receiving in Africa that is making us not to innovate. So, and we worked together as a team, and we actually bettered a solution that we called Mindshift Africa. But for some reasons, we could not continue with that person. I could not continue. I had to hand it over to some of the team members, right, because of my current realities as a father. But then the point is, we need to move from consumption to creation, right? Because purpose aligns everyone. It reframes the world. Give me a second. Oh, okay, great. Amazing. Amazing. Thank you for mentioning that. Amazing. Okay, good. Yeah, I pray from AMS. I understood. I understood. Thank you so much. So, a consumption mindset asks, how can I look better than you? A purpose mindset asks, how can we solve this problem together? Just like this conference that is currently being organized by I don't know if I should call you Olajumoke. I should call the brand name TOVA. So, but yeah, this is actually seeking to solve a problem of not so ready professionals in Africa, actually, right? So it's this kind of approach, and of course, we are here collaborating on this. I want this program to be a success. Interestingly, yesterday there was a miscommunication around the time, and so I wanted to join to learn from others, because when we're actually collaborating, we want what we are doing to succeed together. We want to succeed together, actually, right? So I have 20 minutes left. Well, I think I'm almost done anyways. Yeah. So the point is, we need to start thinking collaboratively, right? And the formula for progress, right? Because it's people, purpose, progress. So actually, the truth is, we want to experience progress as a continent. We want to create better solutions. We want to export our own food to the world. We want to export, well, the only thing we have been able to do successfully in the African continent that I think I'm proud of is that we have exported our music, right? We've exported Afrobeat. Afrobeat. You go around the street, you hear people playing songs by different people. And interestingly, this year, some Christian guys are also doing amazing, like Giz Baba. He actually won an award in the UK for the best music in the UK. And I was like, okay, way to go, right? So we've done well in the entertainment industry, right? But there's so much more that we can do. Benin, the walls of Benin, right? Those were like the first innovative kind of structures on Earth, right? So it just shows us that there's so much we have to do as a continent, and we are underdoing. So that progress we want to experience is a function of our people, because we are so blessed, but then we must come together with a purpose, right? And for me, that's the non-negotiable formula for progress, because people plus purpose equals to progress. Purpose is what turns a crowd of individuals into a collaborative force. We see that in the story of the building of the Tower of Babel. Like I said, my own understanding, my upbringings around the Bible. So I love the Bible and I use biblical examples. So I'm not trying to preach or stuff, but I'm just giving you a context to the examples that I am using. Great. So what does progress look like? The truth is, God, the creator of the universe, according to the Bible, who created the world, said something very important. He said, let us create, let us make man in our own image, for instance. So at our very fundamental framing, at our foundation, was a collaboration. Three entities had to come together to create every one of us. And because they made us just like them, it means that for us to create tremendous things on the earth, we need to collaborate. That is the truth. We need to collaborate. If God could do it, it means that we as human beings need to do it. And I think that's what's missing in Africa. Trust me, if you go to Wall Street now, for instance, you see young chaps all competing to create things, not competing as a means to say, oh, I'm better than you, but competing to solve problems for the world. And for me, that's so powerful. They come together. Check most tech startups that you know of, right? It's not one person's effort. The Elon Musk, who is the richest man in the world now, did not create the whole of the Tesla brand on his own. The batteries, for instance, were not his idea, right? Somebody else did that. So it just shows that the progress we want to see in our career requires collaboration. I just remember, there's an example that I actually want to give. So I have a friend here who has become a brother, like very close. He went to FUTA in Nigeria and he studied mechanical engineering. During the COVID-19 pandemic, of course, schools were not in session. He and some friends decided to use that long holiday to learn coding. And they began to code. It would surprise you that within 6 months, One chose software development, one chose cybersecurity, they all chose different aspects they wanted to upskill on. They came together, right? Now, amongst the four of them, the three of them are currently, one is in the US, two of them are in the UK. He was studying mechanical engineering, but he did his IT in the Bank of America as a cybersecurity specialist. It shows you that although he was studying mechanical engineering, right, but by coming together with his friends to collaborate, they were able to create a path for them that makes them real assets to international companies, making them relevant even in the place that they are currently in. And he's very, very young, right? So the point I'm trying to say is when people come together and collaborate, trust me, it always brings about creation. The same happened for Jobs and Wozniak. They both created the Apple brand, right? While Steve's name is always one that is mentioned when Apple is mentioned, right? Wozniak was the actual person who did the technical job of creating the Pro product. But then, because he was not keen about the recognition, I can tell you that the breakthrough Apple had is responsible for the trend that we've seen in technological advancement in terms of mobile phones and stuff like that. So just to be a part of something, okay, see Elon Musk, for instance, right? He has all the right to keep quiet about so many things that are going on in America that are not right, so to say. But because he actually wants a better world, right? He keeps lending his voice to power every time. So it just shows that when we want a great future for the world, then we need to come together and collaborate. And of course, our African heritage too. Like I said initially, we are the cradle of innovation, right? We were once united. Africa was once united, like very united, until the slave trade and all of that happened. And then it turns out we're now competing and all of that. And I just feel like we need to go back to where we used to be in terms of our mindset towards creation and collaboration, right? And this leads me to the next one where I talk about the fact that we need to move from consumers to creators. A deliverance is actually needed, right? It's time for us to get our house in order and to remember that our true heritage is the heritage of innovators. Trust me, I'll give you this research now. Just go on ChatGPT and type, give me a crash masterclass on the history of Africa. And you'll be surprised. The first thing you will likely see is Africa is known to be the cradle of innovation. So what happened? Why are we not innovating again? Why? Right? So we need to go back to that creation mindset and trust God to help us become better individuals. So what is the new approach to be future ready, right? We must stop competing and start connecting. We must see ourselves as partners, not rivals. We must ask, how can we? And not, why not me, right? We must stop consuming. It's just like a football match. When you see a team playing a coordinated football, you don't hear that, oh, Haaland won the match against Man U, for instance. You hear things like Man City won over Man U. That's how we need to start working, right? And I think for me, the major thing really is that we need to stop consuming and start creating. That's the major point I'm trying to hammer. But then for us to do that, we need to stop competing and start collaborating. And of course, you must build your community. Find the people that aligns with the purpose that you're trying to achieve and then progress together. So my challenge to you today is that you should find your people, you should define your purpose, and then you should start your progress. So that will be all from me. I didn't want to finish my time because I know that there are other speakers who will be sharing their powerful insight, which I'll be a part of myself because I'm here to learn as well. So that's just my short. I had to just improvise and paraphrase a lot of things just to keep it short. But if I will summarize the point I'm trying to make is we have completed a lot in Africa. Like Our parents have trained us that way. We have been taught to do this. Interestingly, like there's so many funny things that I actually learned here when I came to the UK. You can meet somebody today and you know all about their family history. You know what they're trying to do. It's because they don't see you as an enemy. They see you as somebody who might have a potential solution for what they are doing. But we try to hide things. We try to, oh, I have an idea. You trust me, ideas are not nothing. It's execution that is key, right? And when you have people who are willing to back you, to support you, to work on your ideas, then it becomes something that becomes a reality. So thank you so much, amazing friend and sister, Diola Jumoke, for having me. I can say I have a question already, which is really good. So I will take the question and am I allowed to take the question now? Just confirm I can take it now, or is there a session
Yes,
for
sir.
Q&A?
Thank you so much for that. That was well structured. This question is from Josephine, and the question is, I was thinking God would just give me an idea like others, but I have not gotten yet. What materials can I consume to help me to create ideas that will be a solution to problems in Africa?
That's a very good question, Josephine. Thank you so much for asking that question. So the truth is, most times we want God to give us our own ideas. But at times you find your own ideas while working on other people's idea. What's his name? One of these my great guys that I love. So I have other people I watch documentaries. Is it Thomas Edison now? I can't remember. No, is it that Thomas Edison? Yeah, I think he's the one. Yeah. So he actually traveled. So history has it. He actually went to work in one particular printing press or something like that. So when he was working there, he saw something that was not being optimized. Interestingly, he shared the idea with his company, but they were not willing to do it. He now stepped out to actually go and do it. And that was how he created one of the solutions. I can't remember the exact thing he created, but it's the same for Bill Gates too. He shared the idea for Microsoft with IBM. He was working with them and said, oh, this thing can be better, right? So most times your own idea might or will come or might come while working on other people's ideas. Alternatively, you can be reading resources, right? So I think you can be obsessed with a problem so much that you begin to think about solutions. Okay, for instance, one of the business I currently run in the UK, it's Errand Boy. The call I had initially was my supplier calling me that my orders have arrived, right? And what happened is I saw a couple of businesses, okay, like we have Tesco, we have Sainsbury. All of these companies have their own delivery service where you can just make an order online and they just deliver it to you in the house. So, but then most interestingly, the first thing is the African stores here are not owned by Africans. That's the first problem I actually noticed in the UK. And we're changing that narrative. Before the year runs out, we'll launch out our own African store, by the way. But then I said, okay, the stores that currently sell African foods, they don't have this service. What if Africans want to actually leverage that solution too? And then I created Errand Boy, right? So most times, just by looking around you, just by reading materials, it doesn't have to be a materials on ideas. Just reading random books, really, to engage your mind, it will kind of open you up. And also meeting people too, right? It could open your mind up. So there are so many things to do. But I say the fundamental thing to do is have the mindset of I want to be a creator, not a consumer. Once you have that mindset, you begin to see opportunities around you, and that's just the truth. But then there's so many books to read actually. Like there's just so many books. So, but like I said, be a person who is inclined towards that, and don't be afraid or unwilling to work on other people's ideas, because when you do, your own ideas would come to you while you are doing something else for somebody. So that's just my little yeah take on that. And if you feel like you want more on that, I can actually connect and then yeah talk more about it. But that's my take really.
There is a book from TOVA, Career Clarity Journal. So,
Yeah.
Josephine, you can get the book. Thank you so much, Mr. Daniel. Do you have anything that you want to say to round off this session?
Just want to say a big shout out to the convener, Olajimake, for this great idea. Great things starts with seeds, and thank you for sowing these seeds because you believe in the future of us as Africans, and I believe in that future too. So let's do our best to leverage all the insights that other speakers will share as well to become all that God wants us to be. I believe Africa is the future of the world, and we need to be ready when the future comes.